Did we cheers first again?
Yeah. Welcome back to another Christin and Chris podcast. This episode, we're talking a little bit about marriage misconceptions and maybe even some engagement tips or things that helped us going into marriage. So, Christin, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So, a quick backstory to this podcast is a few days ago I got all ready. I did my hair and makeup. We were about to film the podcast. And I was like, oh, let's make some coffee. I got Chris a new espresso machine for our anniversary. And somehow one thing led to another. And we got in a very large argument about making coffee. So podcast did not happen because
yeah, I tried to make it happen. I was like, all right, are you ready? I'm over this. And she's like, no.
I need to take a nap. So I took a nap.
So 24 hours later, she gets over it.
I got over it. Yes. And now we made regular coffee pot coffee. So there was no arguing involved. But we do have real coffee in our cups today.
Yeah.
Not water like last time.
Yeah.
So, but we're excited for episode 2.
Woohoo!
Thank you for all of you who watched episode 1 as we explore this world of podcasts. It's really fun.
And hopefully the dogs will be quieter today because the Junebug and Wonder are outside.
Yeah.
So, if you're new to the channel, welcome. We're just hanging out, chatting, and just hoping to provide some value for people, and specifically people who are married or want to get married or engaged to get married. In this episode. So, do you want to actually start us off with well, how about we do this? I wanted to do like an engagement tips because we just had some friends that got engaged. We just had some other friends who went through a quick engagement. And we had a quick engagement, 3-4 month engagement a few years ago. And I think it's helpful just to talk about a couple tips for that time.
Yeah.
Do you want to say one of yours if you have one?
Yeah. I don't know. First of all, engagement is such a special and like sweet time, and so I don't know. I think that the idea behind engagement and planning a wedding is from just like the media and just the way it's shown is like it's stressful and it's chaotic and it just has to be super expensive and all these things that like just I don't know, for the months leading up to your marriage, it's like that sucks that like your idea of engagement, you know, is like, oh, it has to be stressful and overwhelming. And that just like was not the case for us. I mean, there were maybe moments of tension of making decisions, but I would say like one of the best things I think that we did was we did have a short engagement. Yeah. And so when it came time to like make decisions, like I think we booked our venue like 3 days after getting engaged, and like we had to make decisions quick. So it kind of forced us to be like, okay, we want this color tablecloth. Okay, we want these flowers, because we didn't have, 3 months to talk about what kind of flowers we wanted or how much money we were going to spend. It was just like, this is our budget. This is the colors we want. Okay, cool. Let's go for it. So having a quick engagement, and I know that's not always the perfect scenario for everybody, but if you can do a quick engagement, highly recommend it, because then you don't have to talk about it for so long.
Yeah.
So that's my first tip.
I think
tip 1.
You just lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, practical advice on getting engaged is find the few things that you are really important to you, and what you want to spend extra money on. So for some people, it's a beautiful big venue. You want to have 1,000 guests. You want to have a nice food, whatever. For us, it was I want a nice DJ because my family loves to dance. Yours does too, but my family is very particular.
Very into music and dancing.
Yeah. So are our friends. So that was like a must-have. I literally can't think of any other must-haves that we had, but that's a key. Like, figure out your priorities, budget accordingly. All the other details they don't matter. Just figure them out. So.
Yeah. Are we still going with tips?
Yeah, do you have another
Okay, I have another quick tip. I think it's very important, and this didn't happen in our family, like, when we were planning, but since we work in the wedding industry, I talk to a lot of brides, and we do have a lot of friends who are going through this, and I would just, like, give your family members very, boundaries. And, like, say your, like, mother-in-law to be is really wanting, just very passionate about helping you. I would maybe give her, like, specific tasks to, like, be like, hey, you can own this area of, like, the wedding or the bridal shower or whatever, and give her something to, like, really work on to where she's not bombarding you and stressing you out. Because I know that is what stresses people out a lot, is family. And adding in their input a lot. But yeah. Oh, and then also, did you have one next?
No, just kidding.
Okay.
This might be a whole episode of
I know,
tips.
but okay, so those of you ladies out there who don't really care, I guess, about having, like, the most elaborate wedding dress. So wedding dresses are super expensive most of the time, but I went to a bridal shop and I was trying on all these. They were amazing dresses, but for me, I'm just a very, like, more simple person, and I was like, I cannot wear this. It felt like it didn't fit me right. And then the sweet little bridal shop lady was like, hey, like, you can actually try on any of the bridesmaids dresses that we have, and you can order it in white. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I immediately went to the bridesmaid dresses and found, like, 5 that I was like, I love these. They're more simple and just, like, more relaxed feel. And I was like, oh, I can dance in this. I can, like, feel comfortable in it. And so I got my dress for, like, under $300. And it was perfect. No one knows it's a bridesmaid's dress until...
Well, that was also another priority thing.
Yeah.
It's like some brides want a $10,000 dress.
Right.
To wear one time and keep in the back of their closet.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But we didn't find value in that.
Yeah.
But if that's what you want to spend your money on, spend it on it.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So
and
if you want to work around those budget things, you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's good.
I like that. What about, like, practical advice for... not for, like, necessarily wedding planning, but, like, preparing for marriage? I'd say for us, a lot of people do marriage... Premarital counseling, yeah. And we were going to do it, but we actually just wanted to spend time with another couple at our church, an older couple who we respected a lot and didn't really know, but we're getting to know. And the guy actually helped me through coming into the decision to ask Christin to marry me.
Phrases.
And it was, like, just a short conversation, and then we, like, went to Whole Foods at another date and just chatted. So that was kind of, like, our pursuit into, like, getting connected and, like, getting some marriage advice. And then we also read books together about marriage, and I thought that was super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any advice on that?
I don't know. I told our friends that just got engaged. I told, this has to do with planning.
Shout out if y'all are listening.
I know. so exciting. But I told her, I was like, if you're talking about planning and you start, like, arguing or feel the tension or feel this, like, stress come over you, I was like, just stop. Like, stop what you're doing. Like, talk about something different. Get back to, like, the main, like, excitement and joy of, like, you're getting to marry your best friend, and, like, the other decisions can wait, and, like, just put it aside for a little bit and just have fun and, like, laugh together and have joy versus just dwelling in the stress and then making decisions out of being stressed and stuff like that. So I would say that's a big one. And I would say just, like, finding a good rhythm that works for you and your fiance of, like, staying plugged into community, but also, like, realizing that it's okay to, like, spend time, like, just you two, like, learning more about each other and talking about things and stuff like that. Like, I don't think that there's a formula to, like, how much time, I don't know, plug into community, but also it's okay to spend time, like, just you two. It's a super special season.
I think there's a point I want to hit on with that is So for us, we dated for 3 years. That's another story for another day. But so our engagement was quick, but like our engagement wasn't spent getting to know each other. A lot of people in the church, at least in the environment that we're in, like know each other for 6 months and then get engaged, and they are engaged for 4 months and then they get married, and like their whole first 5 years of marriage are like getting to know each other, and that's completely different than what we had. I mean, obviously it's a lifetime of getting to know each other, you know, like always growing, always dating. And
is that a new goal?
But I think it's just different when you date for a while and then you have a quick engagement versus like, hey, we love each other, but we like hardly know each other. Now we're engaged, and so let's actually find out the dirt on each other. Not the dirt, but you know, like tell me the things that we haven't talked about that are like, hey, this is a big deal, and like we should find this out. So if you haven't had those conversations, have the conversations.
Yeah.
Ask the hard questions. Bring people in that you trust to help you work through it or whatever. And yeah, it is fun. It's a good time. So yeah, I don't really have anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say this is the last little thing about just like engagement.
Yeah.
Kind of like what I was saying earlier about like taking a break if planning gets stressful, like do your best to like have conversations about things other than the wedding, even though it's super exciting. And that was really hard for me. Any big like life thing that happens, it's really hard for me not to like focus all of my like conversation and thoughts around like trying to figure everything out and like make sure everything's good to go. But like I highly recommend during engagement like talking about things other than different wedding vendors and how much money you're spending.
Be like normal people.
Yeah, have a date night set aside where you're like, we are not talking about anything about wedding. We're just gonna go have fun and be excited. We can be excited for the wedding, but just no detail talk.
Yeah. Learn how to be business partners.
Yeah.
Have a meeting for an hour about wedding, and then the rest of the time you can just hang out.
Yeah, you're good at doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're like, and we're moving on. Okay. So, but engagement's fun.
That's why having a schedule though is important. Like having deadlines for things, so you can actually be like, we need to figure this out now. And then it's like, okay, that's done. On the next thing.
Yeah.
So
it's good.
It is fun. Cool.
I loved being engaged though.
You did?
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah, because you were stressed out before.
I was. I felt like when I got engaged, I felt like I could just like breathe. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, fine. We are getting married.
Yeah.
I was like, December 3rd. I was like, I can do that. I was like, the countdown has begun.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. I don't even remember what we did.
When we were engaged?
Yeah.
I don't really remember either.
I just remember we got our condo early, and so at work I could go and take naps in like an empty condo a month before we got married, and it was amazing. So, all right, we had to take a little break to reset the cameras. All right, now we're gonna jump a little bit into marriage.
Yes.
Into misconceptions, either that we had or we've, I don't know, see other people having going into it or whatever. You kick us off again.
Okay,
I think
so
you have more than I do.
yeah, and like this, just like to preface this, like this is like nothing wrong with like the way we were brought up or like anything like that. It's just stuff that you hear through the media or through like just random bypassers saying things that just kind of stick with you, or even like in the church. Like
I was gonna say being brought up in the church, like, is definitely
it's stuff that just like sticks with you, and so then all of a sudden it's like you're engaged, and then you're like getting married, and you're like, oh, I just assume that all of these things are true because I've heard them my whole life, and now I'm really thinking about them. And so yeah, it was like interesting. But I feel like a big misconception that I had would be whenever you get married, especially as a woman, I'm gonna throw that in there, like you like have to die to yourself so much to where it's like you don't get to pursue like your dreams or your passions anymore, and you have to like just literally let those go like out the window for forever. And like, I would say that's false. Because I would say, if anything, Chris wants me to like dream more and like do what I'm passionate about, and that really like brings a lot of like life and fun and just adventure into our marriage. And
let's dig into that for a second.
Let's dig a little.
I just want to hit a little bit on that because I think it's super important. So Christin grew up in a Baptist church and then went to Church of Christ. Not sure how that happened.
Went to a Bible church for a little bit too.
And then, in college was at I don't even know what kind of church it was. Baptist-y, charismatic-y.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A little bit more radical than any church I'd been to.
Regardless, a lot of the Western church believes in this notion that like a woman is made to serve a man in marriage. And we're not going to get too far into that, except that a lot of the culture in the West is that. And so whenever you go into marriage, you have this, this conception of marriage. Conception? Is that the right word?
I think so.
You have this idea of marriage that like when they pronounce you husband and wife, they're like, I now pronounce you Mr. Chris Hume. And it's like, oh wait, where's like the wife at?
When they say Mr. and Mrs. Chris Hume.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Chris Hume. And it's like, you can even go on like church websites and it's like Mr. and Mrs. Chris Hume, but it's a picture of the man and the wife. Yeah. And I'm not trying to hate on anyone, but there is a culture that's like the woman is a lesser being than the man. And though a lot of people like wouldn't necessarily say that, they would agree that the woman is supposed to serve the man. But we rarely talk about the man serving the woman, as Christ serves the church. And that really has an effect on like identity within marriage, which is what you experienced. And I think as times like you experience it, like even now at certain points. But that's still stuff that like we like are working through and praying about and studying scripture and reading books, stuff like that. So so if you've ever had a problem with that or like see that in your life, send us a message. We'd love to chat because that's something we're both passionate about. And part of the reason why we are doing this podcast is to actually, empower couples and empower like women and men and partnering together as like God created us to do. Yeah. So.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
And I love that subject. It's controversial.
We'll definitely have a full podcast on this.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments what you think. Yeah. If you want us to do a full episode on that specifically.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's my first one.
That's the one that I put.
Oh,
you don't become a completely different person.
Yeah, because whenever we first got married,
I was gonna say you could go into that.
When we first got married, I was like so excited to be a wife. I was like, I was born for this. Like, I'm gonna be an amazing wife, and all I could think was wife, wife, wife. And then, like, you get married, and like obviously something happens, and like spiritually, like, and physically in every way, like you become one, and like something does happen when you get married. But like, I kind of forgot that I was still like Christin. And so it took me, thankfully only like a few days, I feel like, to where I like kind of snapped out of this idea of like, I have to be an amazing wife. I have to serve my husband. I have to like do all these things because this is what I've heard that I need to do or whatever. And I was like, wait, Chris and I have known each other for like 3.5 years at that point. And I was like, he fell in love with me. Like, we're married because of like literally like who he is and who I am. And so I'm like, oh, I can just like breathe and be myself and like relax. And then we started having fun. Just took a little bit for me to get out of my head. Yeah. Which I've heard is a lot of people I've talked to have gone through a similar thing of kind of like a little identity, like scramble.
Yeah.
So, which is good. Yeah. Figure out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just stare at each other.
Deep into our souls.
Okay.
What's a misconception that you had?
I'm gonna talk about
Oh no.
the thing.
No.
My second one on here was sex.
All right, people, we're going there.
Yeah.
What about it?
So there's a lot of we'll probably have another episode on this as well,
100%.
but my perspective going in to marriage, like part of the reason I was even getting married was for sex.
Great.
Because both of us had waited for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, but it happened.
It did.
Thankfully. But I was just I honestly had no clue, like, about any, like, sexuality of, like, humans and, like, how we function and, like, how men and women are different besides, like, the classic, like, men just want to have sex all the time, and I don't even know about women. But, like, going into marriage, I was just like, oh, yeah, we can, like, we fought so long to not have sex dating, and then we get married, and it's like, oh, now we can have sex every day, or, you know, multiple times a day, or whatever, you know. But that's not how it was, and there's a lot of factors that play in to sex and sexuality and, like, relationship. You know, it's not just like this one standoff thing that magically happens as you make a covenant with God and your spouse, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's another thing in the church that Chris and I are passionate about, because there's so many things that aren't talked about that are super important. Like, we are sexual beings and we live in a super sexual, like, culture, but the church doesn't really talk about it. So yeah, I think it's just a learning process for me, to learn how to pursue you, like, outside of just, like, the sexuality part, the sexual part of it, to continue to, like, date you and pursue you, regardless. So yeah, we talk to a lot of couples that get married, and they're like, have y'all ever, like sex isn't fun, or, like, it's hard? And we're like, yeah. And, like, people feel so alone, like, that they're, like, not these, like, I don't even know what to say, like, 20-year vets at, like, I mean, excuse this language, but, like, that they're not, like, porn stars, like, when they get married, you know? And that's completely ridiculous. Like, if you have a struggle with that, like, if you need to, like, talk to people, like, do it. Like, everyone has experienced it, everyone is going through it still, you know? Like, it's still a constant thing. It's still, like, a working relationship. It's any other part of a relationship. So yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, like I said, we could talk about that for a while, but you want to jump on? Do you have another thought?
Well, I just have, like, a quick thought about that.
Okay.
That we'll expand on more later. But I don't know. I had just okay, I'm trying to phrase this correctly, but I was just under the idea from just a lot of different things and resources that, like, sex would always be more enjoyable for the man more than the woman. And that it would be something that I'm, again, doing out of just service to my husband. And so, honestly, my mindset shifted probably, like, a year ago, and it still is, like, in a process of, like, changing my mindset on a lot of things with this, but of just the idea of, like, God created, like, such, like, an amazing gift for, like, man and woman to enjoy, and he never once said, like, oh, sex is going to be way better for men. Women, sorry, just, like, submit to your husband and, like, do it anyway all the time. Like, that sounds so horrible. And, like, he wouldn't have created women to be sexual beings and to be able to experience pleasure if they weren't created in a way that could enjoy it just as much. So Do I think every time it has to be this mind-blowing experience? Not necessarily, but I think the standard of the way Christians view the enjoyment of sex needs to be taken up quite a few notches, especially for women, because I've never heard a Christian woman, I've never heard a Christian woman be like, oh my gosh, I've had amazing sex with my husband this past year.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm just always tired and I just do it because I'm trying to serve him. And I'm like, that sounds so like boring and like not fun and not connecting at all. And so I think, and that helped, honestly, like that changed when I started thinking of like, oh, like I can enjoy this and I can like having sex with Chris. Like it changed like the way that it just made it a lot better for both of us.
Yeah, for sure. There's also a podcast that Christians listen to that we can put the link in the slide or whatever that she suggests. I haven't listened to it yet, but it's another Christian couple who
they like really talk about sex.
Yeah. So so we'll get off that topic. Let us know in the comments. Did you have something else you wanted to go into?
No, I'm just getting so hot talking about this.
Like hot? Or
no.
All right, we're gonna go. I wanted to talk about this. I was thinking about this right before we started about friendships outside of marriage. And I think this is important for dating, for engagement, for marriage, is having. I mean, I think it's common that we say we need to have community in marriage.
Yeah.
But there's this, so I recently read a book about friendships cross whatever, different sex friendships in marriage. Like I can be friends with another woman, Chris can be friends with another man, and how like our culture has been not set up, but we have this thing in culture that's like the only thing that matters in a male-female relationship is sex, and that's total bull. That's a lie. Like God's called us to be brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And if everything's sexual, like a lot of things have become, and like just the amount of like pornography use across the world is incredibly insane. But like if we just view everything as sexual, then we can't have healthy relationships, and God has made us to be in community with male, female, marriage, whatever, whoever it is, like mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, like God's created us for those things, so we need to have those friendships inside of marriage. And this is something like we've, I think, worked through more, whether it be like jealousy or like worry, or I don't know. I don't think I really had like a misconception coming into marriage, but I definitely feel like I heard this quote, I think it was from our vice president, and he was like, I'll never go to dinner with another woman that's not my wife. And a lot of people are like, yeah, like of course, and then other people are like, no, like that's stupid. And I was always on the side like, yeah, of course, like why would you do that? Like you're just putting yourself in this vulnerable spot to be tempted to like, you like smile at a woman like you committed adultery, kind of thing. But that's a lie. And I think we have to learn to have those healthy relationships. But it's not a black and white thing. Like we communicate on stuff like that. And people should communicate. Like if you have a problem with something or someone, or like you're worried about something, like communicate it, like talk about it. But ultimately, like we're following Jesus, and he had friends with men and women, and that's what he calls us to do. So we should be pursuing that in a healthy way. Yeah. And I love that. So have friendships outside of your marriage, because Christin is not supposed to be everything to me. Like I'm not supposed to go and just play basketball with Christin. I'm not supposed to, like, I love sports, and like I love just like doing whatever, like hanging around, go drink a beer with a buddy, like she can't be my best friend, my wife, my basketball partner, my workout partner. Like she can't be everything to me. like we were created to be in community.
Yeah. Preach.
So that was one of mine. You have anything else?
Let's see. So we've talked about sex. We talked about community. We talked about not having to put all your dreams out the window when you get married. Yeah, so I think that there was a big misconception that like marriage has to be hard.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, just like in general, like it just has to, it's hard.
Yeah.
I would say false.
Well, I remember you talking to multiple people when we were engaged or something, or maybe even like right when we were married, and people would be like, or you would ask people and be like, "How's marriage?" And they're like, "Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard."
That is so depressing. And it's like no wonder people aren't getting married. It's like,
yeah.
And I think that there are hard moments in marriage, and I think there's times that it's like, oh, this sucks, and this is not
like
fun.
that one time we tried to make coffee. And that ruined our whole lives.
That was hard. No, seriously, there are hard moments, but like if like the generation, if they're like people who are married and like all they're communicating to the people below them who are about to get married that marriage is hard, then when they hit hard moments, they're like, oh, this is just what marriage should be. And it's just like, then like the fights keep getting bigger and everything just keeps snowball effects because it's like, oh, this is what everyone told me.
Yeah.
Marriage should be. It's hard. And so we must be doing something right because we're fighting and we're going through really hard crap and we're in financial issues and we're like, we can't get pregnant, whatever that might be. It's like, oh, this is what marriage should be. This is the standard. Once again, the standard that we should be living by.
Yeah.
Instead of like fun and joy and adventure and like creating life and being financially free and like having amazing
changing
sex.
The world.
Like, changing the world and like thriving in your business and
thinking about the verse, it's iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And there's a quote I've heard pastors use in some of the ceremonies that we have. It's like, marriage isn't for your happiness, it's for your holiness. And I get the point of that quote, so I think it's cool. But like Jesus already called us holy. Oh, I'm getting like the... So marriage isn't for your happiness, but for your holiness. But like if Jesus already made us holy and like God has given us marriage as a gift and told us to, multiply and have babies and, change the world kind of thing, then like at one point, iron sharpening iron, the iron gets sharp, right? Like it's not like, this just came to me. Like at one point it gets sharp. So it's not this constant like dueling, like these two dull iron swords that constantly stay dull. Like if you're sharpening them, like they get sharp, And so that's what marriage is. Like we should be sharpening one another, which means we should be changing. And so like if we're still fighting about how the coffee is getting made, like next week, like there's a problem. Or like if we're still fighting because someone didn't put up their dishes, like that's a problem, like that's not how like God made us. He made us to like change and to like become more like him. And so that is exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting.
Yeah. So.
And that's like one thing that I'm just like so passionate about, like these friends who are getting married, and there's going to be so many more friends that we know that will get married. And I'm just like, my biggest thing is like, I just want to like infuse them with just like hope and joy and like not like this idea of like, oh, don't get your hopes up. Like, I'm like, no, people need to get their hopes up because people are going into marriage already thinking it's hard because they probably just had a stressful planning, like all this stuff. And then they're just like, oh, this is just going to stay hard. And I'm just like, no, like it can be so much better. Sure. And I think we've had like a taste of that, but I think that there, even people who we get to just like hang out with and spend time with and mentor, if you will, like even in the future, I'm like, I just want to instill them with just like a fun expectancy of hope and knowing how to deal with hard things when they arise, but like learning how to have joy and stuff like that. So, which I'm still learning for myself too, because I'm the one who was pouting about coffee for a long time. So,
yeah.
But I'm getting sharper.
Same here, thankfully.
Those are good though. I hope some of those were encouraging to everyone who's listening of, I don't know, even people who've been married for like 40 years or whatever. If you're listening, like I hope, like even then I'm like, I hope that when we're married like 40 years, like there's things we're still learning and growing in and we're experiencing even richer life then too.
Yeah, we will for sure.
That's
glory
right.
to glory.
That's right. Money in the bank.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, like Christin said, if we do hope some of that stuff stuck out, let us know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. But for real, we want to hear like what something that's helpful, or like what's something that you disagree with, or like something that you found that's been helpful for marriage, for a relationship, for anything. Like we'll share some of the resources that we talked about, and I think that's it. Yeah,
I think so. Okay.
All right. Well, see you later.
Have an amazing day, everybody.
Bye.